Hello and welcome to Mindlift, your destination to unlock your peak health performance.
Based on scientific insights and inspired by real life stories.
Brought to you by the Brain and Performance Centre, a DP World company, filmed here in the vibrant city of Dubai.
So today we're actually running the format slightly differently, more of a roundtable, and I'm lucky enough to be joined by not one or two guests, but I actually got four of them with me today. Two of them are from our team. I have Marah Odeh, our lead clinical dietitian and nutritional expert, and I've got Taif Al Delamie. He is our lead physical performance. And we're also joined by two very unique individuals, and actually two of the craziest guys I think I've met, James Square and Paris Norriss. So rather than me introducing them, I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves and probably one of the most grueling things I think that anyone could imagine doing. So please, over to you.
The introductions or the actual event they're doing?
A bit of both.
All right. I'll tell you what. You start.
Okay. So my name is James Elliot-Square. I like fitness. I've been into sport all my life. Played a fairly decent standard of rugby and cricket. And over the last 10, 15 years, I've got more into adventure fitness.
So I'm Paris Norriss. Went to school with James, and for the last 7 years, I've been producing TV shows focused around adventures. And then in the last couple of years, started to get more focused on doing big challenges, which led James to give me a call for this crazy idea that we're doing, which is to run 7 marathons in 7 consecutive days across all 7 continents, starting off in Antarctica, which is one of my bucket list places to go. So that for me was the thing that made me say, okay, that would be really cool, and wanted to do it. I thought, right, all I've got to do is run 7 marathons and I can go to the Antarctic. So that's the challenge. And we've been, in the last month, been working with the Brain Performance Centre to kind of get us in the best state we could be, because neither James or I had ever run more than 1 marathon before. And the 1 marathon I did, I remember saying I'm never going to run another one. So let's just say we're not runners, and we have learned everything from scratch.
Yeah. I think the reason why I'm doing this and why Paris is doing this is to help underprivileged children. So we've got a very strong why in why we're doing it. And we'll probably come on to that more later. But it's not just about us traveling around the world. We've got a good cause behind us.
That's very refreshing to hear. Taif, you're our physical performance lead. And obviously part of the challenge of having James and Paris here was preparing them. And you said something interestingly, get you in the correct state. It's not just physical. Physical is the bulk of the work here, but you need a team around you that basically looks after every single element. And over here, we're quite, I would say, passionate about this holistic approach. And I think it's absolutely important to address physical, yes, but nutritional, clinical, neurological, psychological, all of these kind of pieces of the jigsaw. I'm going to pass over to Taif because I want him to talk through some of the challenges that he foresees and some of the challenges that you've already come across.
Thanks, Dr. Umair. So, everyone's very unique in terms of how they present themselves and what their goals are. But I suppose the biggest challenge with this one is time frame. So Paris and James turned up to us and we were given about 5 to 6 weeks, and each of them came with their own baggage. So that's been really I know both of you from rugby days, so from a checkered past. So listen, for us, the key thing is to identify what is the lowest hanging fruit in terms of what could make the biggest impact, so that when they turn up on race day, they're as prepared as they possibly can be to complete this challenge, and especially for such a noble cause. So identifying that was our first track for each of them. and then just engaging with the amazing multidisciplinary team that Dr. Umair alluded to. Within the clinic, we've got neuropsychologists, physicians, nurses, and obviously the hyperbarics, which make a big difference. With my team, you guys have been very busy with physiologists and physiotherapists. And how do you guys feel in terms of what have been the big changes over the last few weeks in terms of training or clinical lifestyle stuff?
I'm going to start here because we will go to a deep one with you in a minute. Yeah, look, I tell you what's been really interesting is, when you start off with not a lot of knowledge about how to do a challenge, you tend to tackle the obvious, which is it's a running challenge, get running, right? And then you realize, well, hang on, maybe you need to think about how are you going to balance that running with other things, because just running long distances all the time will end up causing injuries. You're also going to neglect some of the other areas. You'll find your energy levels are very low because you've got to look after you've got to eat for the amount of calories and the nutrition that you're going to need when you're doing that. Certain muscles deteriorate that you need. Certain muscles get very strong, so you become unbalanced, and you need to rebalance that with other forms of exercise, not just running. So there's a huge amount of other things that go into it, which, it would have been great if we had more knowledge of that to start with. But you live and learn, and bringing on the Brain Performance Center, with 6 weeks to go was just, it was a savior time, because we got enough time to do something. It would have been, the longer we could have had, the better. But it's definitely gone now from being very running focused to now being very focused on all the other things that we need to have in order to make us in the best state, as we said, before we take this on.
So one of the things I've been emphasizing with these two gentlemen is the importance of recovery. They're not full-time athletes. They've got full-time jobs. I'm lucky enough that both of them wear Garmin's, which is a wearable device that tracks things like sleep and heart rate and training zones. A lot of our listeners will also have wearables. It could be Whoop, it could be Fitbits, it could be Garmin. This is a test, gentlemen. What have you learned? We've tapped into your Garmin data and reviewed the last few weeks. What are some of the clinical lifestyle stuff that you've had to implement based off what we've seen?
Yeah, so I would say, just coming back to that question, when I first started this, sometimes they say that a little bit of knowledge is worse than no knowledge at all. I studied a sports science degree. I'm into my fitness, and over the years, you can get carried away with thinking that you know quite a lot or maybe everything. So when I came into this, I was very focused in, right, okay, I'm going to do my training regime, I'm going to do my diet, I'm going to do this X, Y, and Z. When we came with the Brain Performance Center, things sort of opened up. Pandora's box opened up slightly, and I came in slightly injured. And I think quite a lot of the knowledge that I was using wasn't necessarily ideal for running. It was good for fitness in general, but not for running. What I've learned with the Garmin watch and the wearables is, and the sleep specifically, is the recovery time is of paramount importance. So when I got injured, we looked back at my regime, I'm going to call it, and I looked at my sleep and recovery and what I was doing. And because I was getting up very early, because trying to avoid the Dubai heat for the runs, I wasn't getting as much sleep. So I was probably getting in the region of about 6 to 6.5 hours at best, which isn't long enough. I was doing a significant amount of training. And then my food and diet was probably not being taken care of to the best of its ability. It wasn't consuming enough calories. So with all that, the holy grail of, or the trifecta of not really looking after yourself came back to bite me. But thankfully, we're on the road to recovery.
I think really importantly is for someone like James to sit down and show him the data, and for him to see clearly, okay, well, what happened in the lead up to your injury? Look at your training volume and how much it increased in that time. Look at your recovery factors that Garmin are calculating, things like heart rate variability. So everyone sitting in this room and listening now, your heart beats a certain amount of times per minute, but also the time frame between each beat differs. It's not exactly the same. So the more difference there is, so the more increase in heart rate variability, the more you're in a rest and relaxation stage. The more uniform the beat, so the more consistent it is, the more you're in a stressed state. Okay. Now, James, over to you on this.
Well, I think you're probably better at answering it, but I think my heart rate variance was quite low when I was getting injured. It's starting to get back. I mean, this weekend,
proving he is a robot.
So this weekend I haven't done any fitness. I haven't done any fitness for nearly a week, trying to recover from this injury. And my sleep went from probably average of about 7 hours up to 7.5, crept up to 8, and then this weekend was about 10. So quite clearly needed it. That included 2 naps. It wasn't just the 10-hour out. But yeah, it does show, and my heart rate variance has increased gradually, so it's now up to, on average, I think about 45. I'd like it to be closer to 60, but that's where we're at the moment.
And I think just, navigating a full-time job and doing that side of things, it does make these things challenging, which a lot of people can relate to. But we talked earlier about the lowest hanging fruit. So what were the key things? We had these gentlemen for a short period of time. What can they change to make the biggest difference? And I think emphasizing the fact that when you recover is when you get the benefits of your training, not while you're training. Okay, so you need to do the work. These 2 gentlemen haven't mentioned yet, but they have a big background in achieving fitness success and challenge success. Paris has rowed across the Atlantic in a Pacific in a team of 4, and James has done James has done a 24-hour row, not to mention a number of other events. We were just chatting about High Rocks, which is now very popular, but he got a cracking time in the pro event. So there's lots of background, and they've proved to themselves what they can do. Running is a different beast, as we know. And just emphasizing the sleep. When I looked into their wearable data, trying to get them closer to an earlier sleep time so they'd get more deep sleep in that first part of their sleep cycle and get their recovery was really, really important.
Yeah, so to add to that, I think the first step for me was to wear my Garmin all the time, because like you said, it's the recovery process that's the most vital. And I was just wearing it when I was running or exercising. And then when you start to see that data, it's amazing, especially when you go on the web app and you can really look around and see what's happening to your body. As you said, like, my recovery is really good. It's like having 2 chargers in the iPhone, I think you said, which is great. But then you look at, like, when you're not having a good night's sleep, how that affects it. And I think that's where the power of the wearables is really good.
So just to tell our listeners, and maybe the people in this room don't know, but I haven't been able to log into your Garmin recently, Paris. He said he's been hacked, but I'm sure he's just changed the password. Like, Big Brother is watching. He said he speaks away from his watch in case we're listening in.
Put my watch in the other room and Dave's listening.
So speaking of telling tales and keeping an eye on you, Marah, I've got some information for you. So Marah being our clinical dietitian working with these 2 gentlemen, Paris did a marathon this weekend. He actually ran around the Palm, where they'll be doing their marathon when in the 777 challenge. And he decided, as part of his nutritional strategy, to consume 30 to 40 dates on this run. Now, this is not something he's ever done before. What are your thoughts on that?
So thank you for the secret. You did not tell me you were going to do that.
I didn't have any gels, so I used dates.
You've run a marathon before as well, right? Where you use the gels instead of the dates.
Yeah, so
you've done that before.
Yeah, so I used gels previously, and I think I had about 8 gels during it, because you're supposed to have about 60 grams up to 90 grams of carbohydrates per hour. But with dates, they have about 16 grams in. So it was looking like I needed, around 10, 11 per hour. I don't think I quite had 40. I might have had about 30, but it was a lot of dates. But I did.
I think the problem with the dates is there's not the balance of the carbs that you need. So you need the maltodextrin and you need the fructose, right? So with a date, you're just getting instant sugar, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of fiber as well. So it is good. It has carbohydrates, but it's slow releasing carbohydrates. When you're on these runs, you need the balance of, like what you said, glucose, fructose, different types of sugars, which are in the gels to give you that quick energy.
Yeah.
So for one-off marathon, it might have been fine. But if you're doing 7 in a row in 7 days, I wouldn't.
I don't think you can carry that many dates around.
No, yeah.
I'm not.
I know you go on dates a lot. But...
No, it's called a poor man's marathon. Okay, so like no, I wouldn't recommend it. It certainly didn't give me the energy boost that that the gels have.
Yeah.
And now my clothes are all sticky with dates. No, so it wasn't that useful, but at least it was better than nothing.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, congratulations on completing it.
Yeah.
And that's one.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Felt like I could do another. No, I tell you what, this was the first marathon I went into it with a different mindset. And I think mindset's really paramount with everything. I went into it thinking, okay, I'm just going to run a marathon and maybe I'll run another one the next day. In my head, treating it very casually. And I feel fantastic. I did go a little bit slower than what I would do if I was racing a marathon. I didn't race in this one. I went at a comfortable pace. But yeah, with a mindset that everything's fine and this is nothing.
So just in terms of that mindset, James alluded to it earlier about having a very important why. One of the stories in my past working with a client who you both know called Maria Conceição, she holds a Guinness World Record for 7 ultramarathons in 7 continents in 12 days, so the fastest time. And again, she wasn't someone that on paper looked ever like she was going to complete this event. But I learned a big lesson in my early career working with her, that despite what you may see from a physiological standpoint or their training, if you've got a really important why, which is what you two gentlemen have, you can achieve great things. So you add that to the right preparation and multidisciplinary team supporting you along this journey.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of friends and family recently because I am injured at the moment. So just to be totally transparent, I haven't run properly for 8 weeks now. So I've done little splurges of trying to get back into it, trying to get ready and maybe pushing myself a bit too hard too soon. And they're going, oh, so you're injured, maybe you can't do it. Maybe you should postpone. There's not a chance that I'm doing that. It's not in my vocabulary to do so. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get through it. We've got an amazing cause, which is helping underprivileged children who have been through horrific. When I say horrific, that doesn't do it justice. Circumstances. They may have been orphaned. They may have they've been trafficked. And some of the stats on trafficked kids around the world is that female girls, that if they have been trafficked, the likelihood is 50% of them will die before the age of 15 in childbirth. So, that's the sort of stuff we're talking about. We're talking about kids that have got mental disabilities that, we need to help them with the Art Foundation, Sovereign Art Foundation, allowing kids to have a safe space, safe haven to come in using art therapy to transform their lives. And that transformation I've seen firsthand. I was in Hong Kong, lucky enough, with my company Sovereign, who's a worldwide company, and the charity itself there, the workshop there. I went there and I saw the kids from the moment they came in at the beginning of term, and then just through one workshop, the transformation, that they feel in a safe environment. They're now smiling. They're now engaged. They're now learning. Whereas at the start they were hitting out. They were quiet. They didn't want to go in. And that's just one session. So what we're doing, the why we have, it gives me goosebumps when I talk about it. And I mean, this isn't necessarily the forum to ask for it, but it's like, if you can show any support by following our journey, that's what we're asking for. We're asking you to, go out of your comfort zone a little bit. We're pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, and whatever you can do to support, please do.
James, I can clearly see your passion. And the first time that we met, we spoke about this, and it was the one thing that stuck out. And we're lucky enough over here to work in a center that actually, we ran a whole kind of initiative last year where we were trying to help children who were coming from not so much difficult backgrounds per se in terms of what they've been through, but from kind of your non-neurotypical, your neurodiversive population, and trying to make differences. And firsthand, we've been lucky enough to see those changes, and even the smallest change and the difference it's made. I think the amount of shares that we've probably the amount of tears that we've shed within this clinic, I can't even explain. So it's a beautiful story, and I know no matter what, you're going to complete it.
Yeah.
The issue also is no matter what, you're going to complete it. And going back to your original story when you came in and you said that you were injured, I don't think I've seen an MRI of a leg where I've seen more areas where there's been unfortunate damage. And what is clear to see is that even when we were talking at that time, you were talking about having these injuries, having these issues, and yet you were still rowing, setting personal best times, which probably would have broken world records. And so I think part of Taif's challenge and his team's challenge was kind of bringing you back a little bit and reining you in to a degree. And Taif used a really interesting analogy, the hare and the tortoise, and almost reining you in, but at the same time pushing Paris a little bit. Well, more than just a little bit, but pushing you guys. And so from our point of view, we've actually had the experience and the beauty of having to balance two guys who are both athletes, but different types of plans, different desires, different personalized care plans. And I'm going to bring Marah in over here because our day-to-day clientele, the people that we see, actually, nutrition plays a big part, but it's general medicine, it's basic principles, and to a degree, some complexities. But this was probably a great experience and a great opportunity for us as a team to actually learn more so about what I would call extreme endurance medicine. So Marah, if you could just shed a little bit of light on kind of some of the challenges and some of the stuff that you've done that's kind of helped James and Paris.
Yeah, so when it comes to nutrition, it's more like there are general healthy principles that we all know of. And then Dr. Umair mentioned the personalization there. So with nutrition, it's, I think, one of the hardest things to get right. We all hear a lot of different information about what we should be doing. And you were both healthy, but very different. And there were tweaks that needed to be done for you guys to actually achieve what you want to achieve. So I'll start first with Paris. So you were eating, let's say, enough, okay, in terms of calories.
Let's say enough. That's the most complimentary anybody's ever said.
The only time I've seen him without food in his mouth.
Welcome to Body Shaming by the Brain and Performance Center.
When I say enough, I mean in terms of calories.
I was definitely eating enough.
You were eating the right amount of calories, I'll say, but in terms of nutrition, so what you're doing now, is it different to what you were doing before? Do you feel by optimizing your calorie intake, your protein, your carbohydrates, that's helping you achieve your goals? So you just did the marathon, for example, and afterwards as well?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely helping. I notice it in the recovery and the energy levels in my normal day the most. You know, that's now when I'm training or even running long runs, I feel like normal the next day, which is you know, partly because of the training has allowed my body's recovery time to be quicker, but I think largely that comes down to nutrition. But yeah, it's a completely different world trying to train hard on bad nutrition and training hard on good nutrition, because it's just a different world. Your body recovers so much quicker. I love it now. I feel like what I do after a long run is I still eat like crazy, but I eat within a healthy parameter, and then have a really good sleep shortly after that, and I can just feel everything has just worked itself out. So yeah, it's big.
And with the recovery, I think that's a really big part of it. So Taif touched on it a little bit, but with the recovery, the physical recovery is needed, but also you need the right nutrition during recovery. You can't undereat just because you're not training that day. You still need the right amount of protein, the right amount of carbohydrates for the glycogen, for the muscle repair and everything to continue going the next day.
Yeah.
So it's great to see that you've done that and it worked.
I definitely wasn't having enough protein previously. And now that I am, I can feel, it's now I've got the right balance. I'm feeling a much better recovery.
And then with James, it's a whole other story. You were doing the rowing every day and exercising a lot, but your calories were very, very low.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that for a while and you feel it's been working for you. But then you've changed it around and...
Sorry. Could you just tell them the first time you met him what he said he was doing?
In terms of calories and what he was eating? Oh my God, yeah, how did I forget about that? You were fasting for what, 16 hours?
No, I'd done a 4.5 day fast. Because I'm a firm believer in intermittent fasting, not necessarily for any weight loss or anything like that, but I feel like it's very clear in my head, and I have no brain fog, and it allows me to work very, very well. It's not ideal for 7 marathons to 7 days. It pans out. I do like to work out in the morning fasted. I just feel that's how I work out. But going back to my original point where how I got injured, I was doing a lot of working out without eating. Now I was using there's 2 different types of metabolism that you can fire into, and running this sort of longevity, we're going to have to tap into our fat stores, right? And no matter how little fat you have on your body, you can still tap into those fat stores, but it's not ideal on a long-term basis. I've definitely eaten more protein over the last week or so, because I've tried to cut down my calories in carbs and increase it in protein. You will probably be flabbergasted what I ate on the weekend. So I had four chicken breasts, 10 steaks, and obviously my normal protein powders as well.
And you were taking, you're saying, how is it that I'm getting all the
and actually a few burgers.
The tortoise and the hare. So the small insight into the mindset of James Elliot-Square. So everything to excess.
So I thought, my thought process is, right,
Here
amino acids, right, protein is going to help me rebuild what I need my injury. So that's what I'm thinking. Eating more protein.
10 steaks. Yeah.
There's only so much protein your body can metabolize in one given day.
That wasn't just in one day. That was in 3 days. That's in 3 days. That's in 3 days.
So he's healed his injury, but he now has gout.
Yeah. But no, in general, I think that my mindset is strong because I'm able to push myself through hardships. I do certainly think on the diet point of view that I've taken a lot on board. I've increased my carbohydrates. So I've introduced, again, breakfast when I'm training. I introduce oatmeal in the morning with some honey, some berries, and a banana and cinnamon. So that then fuels me for the day. And that's what I will take into the marathons as well. When I haven't been working out this last week, for the last 4 days, I've dialed off that because I don't need those extra carbs. So I've actually gone back into the fasting window of not eating really until about 2 o'clock. But then I'll still eat what I need to eat calorie-wise.
And that week you were exercising. This goes for the both of you, actually, when you up the carbohydrate intake and you up the protein intake. We did the body composition Seika analysis, and the muscle mass for both of you in just 1 week did increase. So you were able to see the data that increasing your protein and your carbohydrates in the right amounts did result to a big difference.
Well, and yeah, both our muscle mass went up and our body fat went down, didn't it? So it's interesting where, you know, people, and I never thought of it, but people do think, I increase my carbohydrates, I'm going to put more weight on. If you do it in the right way, you eat the right macros, and you do the right fitness and the right recovery, it's one of those ones where you're going to actually go in the right direction. And it's actually going to help you get there faster as well.
I think, just to add to that, I generally find that most of what you will read about health and fitness, diets, all of this is targeted at the 95% of people that want to look good, right? Which is, I would like to lose a bit of fat and put on a bit of muscle. But when it comes to an athletic challenge, some kind of performance, then it's not the same. And actually it can be almost completely the opposite of what you're trying to do. So trying to cancel out those voices of everybody telling you, oh, but you need to do this, or you shouldn't do that, or, is important, because it just doesn't apply. The general logic of what is done for most people who are generally not active as they should be, and are not eating as well as they should do either, then it's a different formula.
Yeah, I think for me, I've always had a sweet tooth. You asked my family about my sweet tooth when I was younger. Crikey. Luckily, it was back in those days where it's a lot cheaper to buy the stuff. But now I was probably fasting and controlling my calorie intake to a certain level to allow myself to have let's say the more indulgent stuff later in the evening, which then impacted my sleep, quality of sleep, then made you more lethargic and didn't necessarily want to do a workout in the morning. And so it's a perpetual cycle. Since I've changed my carbs and my protein intake to a more rounded, with the training as well, my hunger or my want for the sweet stuff has dwindled massively. So it also shows if you eat it in the right places in the right time, you get your sleep sorted as well, that craving goes because your body doesn't need it.
Can I tell a story about James's sweet tooth? This is purely for comedy value and not for any scientific research.
Exaggerations are always don't get in the way of any true story.
We went to Malta for a week to do a charity fundraise where we raised $21,000, so it was a success. But we stayed in a hotel with an all-you-can-eat buffet for breakfast. And in the morning, James is always really military about food, especially when he's talking to me, I shouldn't eat that, you should do this. He started the day with a pile of pastries this high, right? That's almost a foot high of pastries. And within 2 days, his legs had got so much water retention. They were like balloons. He looked like the Michelin Man. And it's I think I've been bit by a mosquito. I'm like, James, I think it might have something to do with the pastries you're eating. He's like, no. It's definitely a mosquito. I'm like, James, we're in Malta. Well, okay, there are no mosquitoes.
Hang on a second, right? I'm only going to get defensive here for comedy value, but don't put me in front of a buffet and all you can eat, right? And expect me not to take the money, take it,
Any dates in this buffet, Paris? Or
no dates, then we would have a different story. But for days, I'd be like, James would be looking at his laptop for a while, and he'd be like, "See, the East Nile mosquito hangs around these areas," and I was like, James, it's not a mosquito.
Well, the jury's out.
So. Good to see you guys in good spirits, but there's been challenges along the way.
Yeah.
And Paris probably less so. I always see you smiling, always see you jolly, see you with food in your hand most of the time, in all fairness. So explains. But James, I know you've been through a bit of a journey, and earlier on you alluded to the fact that we'll get into it just a little bit. Talk us through, let's say, probably the last few weeks, how things have been. Longer if you want, from the point of your injury, maybe.
So let's go back to the start of when we took this challenge on in very good spirits, coming out of High Rocks, which I was very fit at that stage. So really good starting point, pushing myself hard. When you look at a challenge like this, you look at it and you go, that's quite far away. But I was determined to get. Although I was fit, I wasn't necessarily running fit. So I wanted to get my technique good. I wanted to improve that, and I wanted to get my times down because I'm quite competitive by nature, if you haven't already noticed. And I wanted to get my time as low as possible, with an idea of even managing to go sub 3 on the marathon, on one of the marathons. Moving forward to the injury in early November. So at that stage, I had done 8 back-to-back halves in 8 days, and I was feeling really good, really good. I was thinking, if I was to do the marathons next week, I'm there, I'm done, I can do this. Got injured when I had done a very hard sessions, and then it's come into now where, so I've had 8 weeks off. Still carried on my fitness with rowing, with weight training, etc. But then over the last 2 weeks, it's really come to fruition that it's right around the corner. And I haven't seen the improvement that I thought with the physio that I've done, either both externally and here, that I needed to get back to a level psychologically, not necessarily physiologically, but psychologically, so I knew I could do this. And then was it last week? I really broke down. Everything was coming about, obviously work, the charity, fitness, health, everything. And it really struck home that this is going to be potentially a very excruciating, painful experience, rather than what I was hoping it was going to be, more of an enjoyable journey where not only am I going to be able to raise significant funds for the charity and the children, but also an experience of a lifetime that I'll probably never go to Antarctica again, and wanting to be able to enjoy the process. So it's been a more psychological battle, I would say, than a physiological battle, because I know I can put my body through hell. But mentally, although I feel that I'm very strong mentally, going into a race like this or a challenge like this, when I say unfit, unhealthy, that's an unknown, because I've never gone into a challenge like this really, and even a challenge like this, but not healthy. So that's where mentally I'm at the moment, and I'm doing my best with you guys. The Brain Performance Company, as said, has been allowing me to get my head straight. It's the support you guys have shown is from every single department and facet of this company. You should be really proud, because it's allowing me to get to a stage where I know I can get through this. Even if I have to be on horse tranquilizers or whatever it might be, I will do this.
They're going to be in the bag, so don't worry. We've got you covered. And Paris, not to kind of belittle the fact that it is a challenge, and this is something completely different. I mean, I know you've done something extreme already with the rowing challenge that you've done. Where's your head at, and how are you feeling? What's the stresses, the anxieties, the worries?
None of those. My head is always naively optimistic. Yeah, look, I've always been naively optimistic. I always have it in my head, it's a done deal. I have visions about things, and then the only thing between here and there is just got to do whatever it takes to get there. I don't really think of things as being easy or hard. Just do it. It's always been like that with me, and it's not reality, but that's what's in my head. When we rode the Pacific, I drove the guys crazy. I probably drive James crazy sometimes, because I don't worry about anything, and there's things that do need to be worried about. But I've I always keep positive about it and just think I know that I can do it. There's not a I'm not as physically able as James is, but I think, and maybe you'll disagree with me, I think probably I believe I can do it more than James believes he can do it. I don't know.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay, maybe I'm not. but I'm not worried about it. I don't know. I think I'm very sure of that I'll be able to finish this.
Always great for listeners to get front row seats to a domestic.
Yeah.
Are you gents side by side as seats as you fly across the world doing this challenge?
Well, I assume so. Otherwise we're going to be kicking Xing Zhong out of his seat, having a chat, because we're videoing this. We're making a docu-series about this, so watch this space. But we'll want to be together to to be going through the journey. There will be ups and downs for sure. I quite like the pain locker, so that I'm not afraid of. As I said, for me it's the injury, and I think for you, I don't know. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I mean, what are you most looking forward to, and what are you most concerned about?
I say I'm most looking forward to seeing all these amazing places. That's how I keep my mind entertained. Is of all the 7 places we're going to, the only one I've been to is Dubai, which will be also fun because it's the home ground. So I'm excited for that side of it. I think my biggest concerns are around sleep and food, and I really think that performance is going to be most determined by sleep and food. So ensuring that we have the right things in the right amounts at the right time in terms of food, and we're going to be sleeping kind of wherever we get the chance to, whether it's in an airport or on the plane, or might even be
standing up.
It might be standing up.
I heard a interesting one where someone was so good at swimming when they were crossing, I think it was the Channel, maybe the Mediterranean. He could sleep while he was swimming. He got that good at being able to switch off one side of his brain. He was able to swim. So he's taking on the challenge. I think it's between Morocco and Spain, and he's doing the longest swim. And he's going to be swimming, sleeping. It's like 3 days. So it's mad.
So, gents, if you were to meet your former selves 6 months ago, okay, and you sitting here now could give some advice to the Paris of 6 months ago, or the James of 6 months ago, apart from learning how to sleep and run at the same time, what would you give the Paris of 6 months ago and James of 6 months ago?
I'd say get some technique training now in terms of running, because we were running with bad technique. We still run with bad technique, but at least we've sorted it out a little bit. So that would have been a good thing to start with early. I think, just all the things that we're doing now in terms of nutrition, even, we've got psychology sessions going on. We've got obviously the conditioning sessions we're doing in the gym. I mean, those are all things that if we had brought those into the program 6 months ago, it would have been great. So I guess it would be, like I said earlier, about not just focusing on the running, but all the things that go around it. That's what I would want to tell myself.
I'd have had to be very careful how I said it to myself, because I'm not one. I'm quite a stubborn sort of person. So taking advice, I choose very wisely who I take advice from. But if I did know what I knew now, I think the keys would be the right footwear. I still haven't tried any of these gels yet because I haven't been able to run. So I'm a little bit anxious about that. I would probably say don't ride a mechanical bull after you've just done 37 kilometers and then injure your hip flexor even more. Basically cut out the stupid stuff, right? I would do. There's quite a few things I would probably do.
Can you tell us more about the mechanical bull? Can you tell us what happened there?
So I was at a brunch. I'm teetotal. I don't drink, but I was with my kids at a friend's birthday party, and there was a mechanical bull. My kids were like, do this. It's
one of those rodeo style.
Yeah. And there's nothing to hold on to, right? And you see, I've just done 37 kilometers, right, in the morning. So I'm really hungry, and I get on this bull, and I've done quite a hard week anyway. And yeah, I think that also didn't really help the hip flexor.
I'm guessing you have fasted as well.
No, I'd just eaten quite a lot of food. There weren't pastries, but there was quite a lot of food. And then what other stuff would I do? What would I say? I think I'd reiterate the techniques.
Yeah. Cut out the mechanical balls.
Cut out the mechanical balls, and probably not concentrate so much on like the length of distance I'm training, but more on the time I'm training.
Train smart rather than training hard.
Well, yes, but it's so from what I've read and listened to recently, the volume of your training for marathons specifically shouldn't necessarily be on the distance, because we look at the Kenyans and the Ethiopians, who are probably the yardstick of how good you can get. They're doing on average 180, 200 kilometers a week, okay, when they're building up to their marathon. But they're probably only doing long runs. They're only doing 35, 36 Ks, right? And you say only, but they're doing that in 2 hours. Whereas we'll be taking 3.5, 4 hours to do that. And the difference between that is, so we're actually in time-wise, we're doing double. So then your technique falls away. You're not fueling well enough, especially in my case. And with that goes hand in hand, you're going to get injured when you keep repeating.
So focus on the time duration, not on the kilometer duration.
Yeah.
So, pop quiz. Nutrition-wise, how much weight do you reckon these gentlemen will lose over the 7 days? Marah, do you want to kick us off for this?
Oh, that's unfair. I can't guess these things at all. Everyone's so different.
Can I put my hand up first?
Sure.
Depends how many pastries there'll be at the hotels.
I think we're going to plan it as well as possible. This is how much you need. Give you a plan for every single day. But midway, I do expect that the calorie needs will be a lot higher than you expect, and you might have the pastries that you need, and you need to let yourself go into that, because the goal for that week isn't the weight loss. We don't want the muscle to go down. Even the fat, you need the fat reserves there as well. So you need to be able to listen to your body, fuel right, and get the sleep right. And those are going to be the main things that week that you're there.
I mean, for me personally, my metabolism and my body composition can change weekly, as we've seen on the body composition. So I started off at what was about 81, 82 kgs, and I was at about 12% body fat.
You were about 12%.
Yeah, and then the week later I was 84, 85 kgs, and I was down at 9%, and then I was then up to 87.5, and then down to 8.4. So I can change quite dramatically, and without training now, I would probably have gone up to more like probably 10.5, 11% body fat, and probably similar sort of weight. So it's one of those ones where I'm not concerned about what my body composition is, as long as it doesn't hinder my performance. So I'm happy to keep eating. And I think that's the key, is about getting as many calories in as we can, but not just as many, but the right type of calories.
And I want to add to that as well, the hydration and the electrolytes are just as important as what you're eating, especially during the run. So the energy gels, I really want you to get those and not have the dates and whatnot when you're there.
Yeah, we've got them sorted, yeah.
And the electrolytes as well, and that will help with the recovery. So what you're having during and after is very important.
So I think the first 20 minutes after, I think we need to get simple sugars into us, and then we need to then have a probably about an hour the proper food. So like I think the first bit is making sure we got enough calories into us, get the massages or whatever we need to do to
stretch,
stretching, etc. And then we then have the proper feed, which is then going to fuel us longer term, building up to reintroduce the glycogen stores, so then we can then carbo load again and then go into the next race.
One thing I've noticed with the marathon I ran yesterday and other marathons I've run, I don't think you ever fully calculate how much you need to take on to rehydrate. So I would take afterwards I'll take a big thing of electrolytes, like a liter, but you really need a lot more than that. And you need to keep doing that throughout the day as well, not just in one go. And I think that's something, because I definitely woke up slightly dehydrated today, even though I did really, bring on the liquids and the electrolytes, but there's a lot that you have to take back on in order to replace that and get back to zero. And then your body functions so much more effectively than when you're even a little bit dehydrated, let alone, and then going to run a marathon again,
So we're close enough to 3 weeks before you guys are about to start.
Less
just under. So what I want to ask, probably Marah, Taif, myself, 3 most important messages or take-homes from now to the point of completion. So preparation, during and after. Sorry to put you on the spot.
It's what we've been talking about this whole time. So you're planning it right for each stage of the preparation and during the week of the marathon runs, and the recovery. I think that's the main take-home message I'd like you both to take today. The recovery is so important, nutritionally, physically, for you to be able to start off with your run and continue throughout the whole week, especially with any injury. So with your current injury, recovery is so important between.
Yeah, it's interesting that, because I might actually stop meditating in the mornings to get the extra half an hour sleep, because I'm finding when I wake up for the 7 a.m. chamber, so I'll be waking up at 5:30, half an hour meditation, and then get ready to come, because obviously traffic takes a while, so that extra half an hour could actually be significantly beneficial, and for the space of 2 weeks I think that might actually suit me, it'll serve me better.
Yeah, and I think most people think they have to do everything to get it right, but you actually need to see what's important for you. So meditation might help you, but it won't help you, so you need to personalize it to what works for you and how close you are to the race and to your goal. So yeah.
Taif?
Yeah, recovery, as Marah discussed, but I suppose bringing back to what I said earlier about tapping into the non-physiological energy in your why, and just knowing that you're going to be facing some really, really bleak moments on this challenge, and what are you going to draw your energy from? Getting that set now. You guys are in the hyperbaric chambers that we have here. It's 2 hours where you're closed off from the rest of the world. Like, taking some of that time there to be thinking, right, when I'm really struggling and suffering, what am I thinking about? By trade, I'm a sports scientist. I love what I can quantify. But as I told you, my big learning point is it's what the unquantifiable energy that will get you over the finish line.
For me, I'd probably summarize it in 3 main stages: preparation, execution, recovery. Have that mindset with everything. You're doing everything you guys can do to prepare yourselves personally and utilizing the facilities that you have around you. Whatever you need, you know that you've got access to. So use it. Genuinely use it. If there's a message that you need to send, that you're worried about something, if there's certain macros you're worried about food, send a photo to Marah, speak to Taif, use us. That's what we're here for, because nobody wants to see you succeed more than us, genuinely.
Well, Taif will keep me from doing certain things. Look, what I will say is that, and going back to the hurt and the hurt locker, some of the physio that I've had, right, the marathons aren't going to be as bad as that. Right? Like, I've had dry needling in my groin and hip flexor with electrodes being shoved through them at what can only feel like electric chair level. Don't do it. So yeah, if that's the message,
Good.
Don't get injured 7 8 weeks out needing to do everything to get fit.
So we've got a surprise for you, gentlemen. We're organising, before you depart, a leaving party, and there'll be a mechanical bull there, James.
I'm sure Craig will be really happy about that.
No.
Will there be croissants?
No, it's like I said, you're doing everything you can. We're here with you. The execution, I've got no doubt whatsoever you guys will get through this. And the recovery, the beauty is that once it's all over, you'll have achieved what you've wanted to achieve, but we're here to support you after as well. We're going to make sure we're going to get you back
for the next challenge.
For the 30 and 30 next time.
I can safely say it won't be running that I'll be doing next, but I have got a new challenge lined up.
Amazing. So we'll look forward to that, I guess. I mean, thank you. I'd like to thank all of you guys for being here, first and foremost, giving up your time, Marah, giving up your time, Taif, to speak about some of the challenges that both Paris and James have had, and you two, genuinely.
Well, I mean, I'm going to speak for Paris on this. I want to say a big thank you to you guys, really, because yes, we would have still done this challenge. Yes, we would have still, raised awareness and performed, but nowhere to the near to the ability that we're going to be able to. Myself, it probably would have been in a wheelchair by the end. And for yourself, I don't know whether or not you would have had the confidence in what you have now. To see where you've come from, even in the last 4 or 5 weeks, is phenomenal. And a lot of that significantly comes down to you guys. So thank you very much, and hopefully we can get this.
And just from my side, another big thank you. It's been a perfect partnership, and I think it's been a learning experience for everybody, because on your side, I think you're learning. It's a very unique type of challenge that we're doing. So we're different characters and different beings in terms of how we train and everything. And for us, it's been incredible. A lot of areas that we were blindsided to, that we weren't paying attention to, that we're learning about. And so I think it's just been a perfect partnership.
And I just want everyone to take the opportunity to genuinely contribute, donate, do something these guys are going through so much and putting themselves, like you mentioned, out of their comfort zone. There's no reason why we can't help. Any final messages, anything that you want to say?
Best of luck, guys. We've got you now, we've got you during, and we've got you after.
And Marah's the only lady over here. We'll leave the last message for you.
It's been great having you both, and I'm really excited to see you achieve this. So good luck.
Thank you.